Welcome to another edition of the Field of 68's Off the Carousel, and we are heading to Syracuse for this one. The new head coach of the Orange. He's not new to their fan base. He's a Syracuse man. Adrian Autry is joining us now. And Adrian, I'm sure you've done a bunch of these interviews. I'm going to try to ask you a question that maybe you haven't been asked as the first one. Not what's it been like taking over? What have you learned from your coach? We'll get to those things. I want to start with your roots because you're born in Monroe, North Carolina. You end up moving to Harlem a couple of years into your life with your mother, your sisters. Tell me how those early years moving to Harlem helped make you become who you are today.
You know, it was a place where, when me being from North Carolina, and I wasn't that old, but I knew it was a difference, and just my neighborhood. You know, my neighborhood was and back in the '80s was about everything, man. It was everything going on. They had times for sports, they had times for different types of activities, some good, some bad, but it was a sense of community. But you know, the one thing I knew is that once I started playing sports, they kind of rallied behind me and kind of kept me out of harm's way, so to speak. And they kind of got behind me and gave me the push to go and to be and try to take this basketball thing as far as I could. So my community. Some people would look on the outside saying, man, that was a tough place to grow up, but it wasn't if you were a part of that community. You knew what to do, you knew where to go, and then people knew you, and they again, my community and my background growing up, they introduced me about family and taking care of family and wrapping their arms around their loved ones.
Going to New York then, how did that help you learn about Syracuse? What did you know growing up about Syracuse?
Yeah, it was, at that time, the Big East, ESPN, that was the beginning of ESPN in those early '80s. And, that was when you watched TV, man, that's what you watched. And then, obviously the Syracuse, when they came on, the dome and the crowd, and back then they had a Dome Ranger, and it's just to be able to watch, the games played at the Dome, high level, whether it was St. John's or Georgetown or whoever it may be at that time. I just got chills watching it, and I remember saying, man, I would love to, go up there and be able to play in that type of stage and be in front of that type of stage. So again, the beginning of the Big East, kind of with the ESPN and all that stuff, the big Mondays, and then that Saturday game, noon or Sunday game, 12 o'clock game. It was just, again, it was something that I wanted to be a part of.
Did you always think that when the ball stopped bouncing, you'd be a coach?
No, not at all. It's funny, when I finished playing, I moved to the DC area, and basketball was I had my run with basketball. I played overseas for 12 years, so that was towards the latter part of the 10 through 12 years were tough. Ups and downs, and you're getting older, body's just not holding up. Going, maybe sometimes splitting times in different countries. So I knew my basketball was on a downstroke of it, and downhill. And so once I finished, I was mentally kind of, burnt out from basketball. And I just started, I just wanted to start my next career, which was anything in business, and just taking everything that I learned from basketball and applying it to business. Well, that didn't last very long. That didn't last very long. I think I dabbled in real estate, did some things like that, and then one day my oldest son, who was about 7 or 8 at the time, he was getting into basketball, and he started challenging me, and we took a visit up to Syracuse, and once we took the visit up to Syracuse, I sat down with Coach and Mike Hop at the time, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Man, I'm in real estate." They go, "What are you doing that? You need to get back into basketball." And so when my son started getting back into basketball, it kind of brung me back around into it, and then it just kind of took off from there.
All right, what were the similarities or differences between that visit where your son's helping lead you back to campus
Pretty much.
versus your visit as a high schooler to Syracuse when they're recruiting you as a player?
Oh, big time different. Oh man. Oh man, I just it was my latter visit was more contained, I would say. No, my visit here, it was interesting story. So I going through the process, my mom was a huge Rick Pitino fan. Huge Rick Pitino fan, and he had, we New York Knicks fans. So he had just left New York Knicks to take the Kentucky job. And so going through the process, my mom was like, "Oh, I think, that's the place." And I kind of thought that might have been the place. It was, there, Louisville, Pittsburgh, a couple other schools. But Louisville and Kentucky were the schools that I kind of like, Denny Crum, God bless him. But he was, those are the two programs I kind of looked at. And Syracuse, they were there. They kind of came on late. But once I went on my visit, I knew I just knew it. I was like, this is the place that I wanted to be. It was just a connection. And I tell people all the time, sometimes you just know when you go somewhere, this is the place for you to be. And that's kind of what it was. It wasn't even so much of what I did on my visit, what I seen on my visit. It was just the connection that I had to the place. For some reason, it felt right.
That whole idea of everything does happen for a reason. It just, sometimes there's not one thing that you pinpoint it to. It just, you felt like you belong there.
Right. I mean, then obviously when I walked into the Dome and seen that place, I said, yeah, this is my stage too now. This is the stage I wanted to be on, because back then, even when I came out, obviously the NBA was always a dream and a goal, but like college was like, you just wanted to be in college.
Yep.
You wanted to be you just wanted to kind of get through that college experience. So you knew you were going to be in college, 3 to 4 years. If you left early back then, it was like a junior,
Right. I read this past week that for 2 years of college, you played on a bad Achilles.
Yeah.
How? Yeah. How'd you go about that?
It was tough. My sophomore and junior year, it really picked up. It was one of those things that you don't know what you don't know, man, and you just you want to play basketball, and I had to just toughen it out, and the good thing about it is once I started playing, it was fine. It was when I stopped, if I subbed out or if I, stopped for 10 minutes just to kind of get back going, that's where the pain really, and then after the games, it was just, that's where the pain kind of kicked in. But it was just, that's what you did. You kind of, sucked it up and just, I wanted to play. We were too good, had too many players behind me. I didn't want to give my spot up, man.
Right. Well, you can't, because
yeah.
I'm guessing once you give that spot up, we know what happens.
Oh, yes. Especially with Coach.
Right. Well, you get the big news this past week that Judah Mintz is coming back after a freshman year in which he averages over 16 points per game, 5 assists per game. For any first-year player in college hoops, nor alone in the ACC, that's pretty impressive. How great is that news? And what are your expectations for him for year 2?
You see me smiling right now, right? That's exactly how I was smiling when I got that phone call. Obviously super excited. He takes our team and he takes us to a different level. And I think he brings our players, the one thing that you said, I think he didn't get a credit for was the 5 assists, being able to generate those 5 assists. And, those can be 10 points, those can be 50, they can be 15 points, whatever it is, on top of his 16 that he was getting. And so he just took our team and our players just to a different level. I was so excited to hear that he wanted to come back, and he wanted to come back. He was excited to come back. I think a lot of times when you sit
Right.
and these kids have these decisions to make, I think as a coach, you just want them to be good with their decision and be excited to come back. And that phone call, I was just elated when I hung the phone up because he was excited to come back. Obviously, he wanted to. He took the information, he went through the process, and I supported him all the way. And I told him, you go into that process to make it, and that's what you try to do. And then, once you get the information, you make your decision. And that's exactly how it played out. And so I was thrilled, excited, elated. I can go on about the adjectives of when I got the phone call.
Mm. What's the biggest thing that you're stressing to your guys here in June, where nobody's watching, doors are closed, that you think is really important for your first year as head coach and this new look Syracuse, because for the first time in close to 5 decades, there will be somebody different on the sidelines. What's that thing you're stressing to your guys to say, hey, we need to show the college basketball world that S, it is on the map?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The one thing that we're stressing right now is obviously a group collaboratively, like we're going to do this thing together, everyone, pushing and challenging each other, and we can, again, we can all change. Like you said, this is change and what the expectations are. And we have an expectation and we have a standard. And the way we meet that is doing it together. It's just not going to take one person. And I think, the way we built this roster, we built it, to be able to work together. We think we have a really, really good roster as a group, but the individuals, they have to do what they need to do. So those are the things that we talk about, handling their business, on, off the court, their approach. But the biggest thing is we're going to do this thing as a group.
Your 6'9" forward, Benny Williams. Recently read that you said, hey, he's a guy, he's one of those individuals that we expect to raise the bar. Not that you don't expect it for others, you do. But what do you see in Benny that could lead him to taking even more of a step forward this upcoming year?
I think, you take the last 5 games of last year, his last 5 or 6 games, I think the light started to turn, and you've seen it in his production, you've seen it in his approach, you've seen it in everything. And again, he's the guy. He's one of our older people now. He's a junior, and he's been through a lot. He came in, his first year was tough. A lot of expectations and things like that, and he battled through it. And then last year as a sophomore, he had some inconsistencies up and down, which was expected. He actually lost his starting spot, and then he bounced back from that. And that's, he's the guy. He's, obviously Judah's our leader, but he's one of our leaders because that's what it's about. He just kind of kept going. And I think the fact that he made the biggest jump and the biggest growth going through those things, and he never hung his head. He came back and he practiced hard and he kept going. And he got his starting spot back. And I think, those last 5, 6 games of the year, that's who I think he will start off with that at the beginning of the year. And that's what we hope for. I just think the growth and the maturity from him, it just all started to come together towards the end of the last year.
You bring in 4 transfers, Adrian, and one of the guys, and I noticed when you picked him up, you said, I've known him for a while. And that's JJ Starling.
Yeah.
So tell me about your relationship with JJ and just how much you think that now getting a chance to coach him, knowing him as well as you do, sky could be the limit.
We always talk, and coaches, I think, and especially in today's game, having that relationship with your players is huge. To be able to push the buttons, and it's always been huge, but I think it's more evident in today's game now. With players, and you see it all over from the NBA level down to the high school level to, college level, having those relationships. And JJ, he grew up with my son. So my younger son, who's actually he's off in college now, he's playing at GW for Chris Caputo. So they grew up together. So we spent a lot of time together. I've seen him grow. I think since he was 8 years old, and just to see him develop and grow into a player and the different things, and being from Syracuse, it's not, it's not New York City, it's not New York City, it's small, it's a small community. So when you see those type of basketball players coming up, you cross paths all the time, whether it's gyms or games or things like that, and so I've had a chance to see him grow and leaps and bounds, from just the way like my son almost. So I'm excited to be a part of it, to be a part of his journey. I know he's excited, and I know once everything happened and we talked, we just knew, this is where he needed to be, and he wanted to be here. And I think me knowing him and knowing what makes him tick and what makes him go, I think that's going to help.
All right, before I let you go, I know that once you get off this Zoom, you're going right back to work on whatever it is. And I'm sure you've taken no time to do this, because as any new coach says, well, I can't. I've got people to beat, I've got people to compete with. But while you're here for a moment, the fact that you're sitting in the room that you're in right now as the head coach of Syracuse, at one point you're doing real estate. It's not that long ago.
Right.
How wild is it to be sitting in that chair and knowing that you are going to walk out into that dome that you fell in love with, and you're the man?
I'm doing a job right now, because I think if I stop and reflect, I might be stuck for about a day or two. But no, you know what though, it's something that we all as coaches, when you start this journey and as an assistant coach, I think everyone aspires to be a head coach. And, to be a head coach is a dream come true. But to be a head coach, at your alma mater, I mean, I can't even put that into words. And, I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm so proud, I'm so happy, I'm so excited to represent, the place that raised me, that had an impact in my life, and now to be able to do that under this hood and under this Syracuse and represent Syracuse, I just, words can't describe it. But I'm super excited, but I don't have time to think about that. I think about it and my job that needs to be done right now. But it's a surreal feeling. It's a dream come true. It's a dream come true, and that's why you dream. Because you just go after it, and I think my story resonates with a lot of people and a lot of my players here. And that's what we talk about. When you're in this journey, enjoy this journey. We're in a super fast, world today, and take time and enjoy it. Treat people the right way. Do the right things. You just never know how that stuff comes back. And again, I never thought I'd be coaching, and then next, I'm coaching, and then coaching back at my alma mater, and now the head coach. I mean, gee, I can just go. I don't even know what to say. I can just keep going, but it's definitely a feeling that is indescribable, to be honest.
He showed up to Syracuse in 1990, and 33 years later, now he's the head coach of this program. Adrian Autry, thanks for joining us on the Field of 68. Best of luck in year one with the Orange.
Thank you, man. This was a great interview, man. I'm glad to get on with you, man. You're a rock star, man. So I'm proud to be here. So I'm doing something right, I guess.
Our partner for today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water, or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's field 68, FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks.